So, I believe we started doing addition subtraction yesterday. Did we get almost all the way through it? I'm trying to remember how far we got into addition subtraction. Yeah, I think we did pretty much addition subtraction. So we feel comfortable with adding, subtracting complex numbers? Doing these here? Well, we did look at yesterday, but Wednesday we worked on this here. Because we can look at these two and then we'll move on to multiplication. Because when we add or subtract complex numbers, we add the real parts together and then add the complex parts together. So for 13 plus 4i minus 8 plus 4i, we can drop the parentheses around our first set because there's nothing to distribute or go through there. The second set of parentheses, we have to distribute that negative through it. So it's going to give us negative 8 minus 4i. Now the real terms, our real numbers, are 13 and negative 8. And what is 13 minus 8? 5. And then we have 4i and negative 4i as our imaginary terms. And what is 4i minus 4i? 4 minus 4. 4 minus 4 is, so we have 0i, or just nothing. So it's just 5. For the next one, we can distribute that negative through. So we'll have negative 13 minus 6i. Now at this point here, we can combine like terms. 16 minus 13 is 3. Negative 6i plus 8i is plus 2i. So we just get 3 plus 2i. Note sheet from Wednesday. Yeah, so we were originally, I was planning on us having us finish these yesterday, but between the ACT, NTC trip, everything else, I was like, we'll just push it back one day. Now, the nice thing with addition and subtraction is the TI-84 plus will calculate with I. We can actually plug it in as the expression states, and it will simplify for us. It will do it for us. But the big question is why does it work with this here and not with variables? Because if we had 13 plus 4x minus 8 plus 4x, why does it not do it there, but it does it here? And the big difference is that a variable x stands for any number. X, a variable, could be any number, and both calculators need it to be defined as a number. I is different because I is what? I is understood to be the square root of negative 1. I, our imaginary number I, has a set value. So it can work with it. It understands, the graphing calculator understands I is the square root of negative 1. It is a set value. It is a set term. It works with it. X, on the other hand, could be any number. So it doesn't do it. It has to have a value for it. Questions on these here? We're going to multiply. And again, multiplication. We're going to treat I almost like a variable. The only time that we have to do something different is if we get I to a power greater than 1. Because if we get I squared, I cubed, I to the 4th, we have to reduce that power. So when we look at this here, the first thing we can do is distribute the 4i. 4i times negative 6, 4 times negative 6 is going to be 24i. 4i times I is going to be positive 4i squared. Now we can't leave it as this here because we have I squared. We have I to a power greater than 1, so we do need to simplify that. Now I squared, out of all the powers of I squared is one that's going to be great to know without having to calculate, because I squared is negative 1. So what we can say here is that we have 24, negative 24I, plus 4 times negative 1. Because I is the square root of negative 1, so I squared is negative 1. So we couldn't leave I squared as, we couldn't leave it as I squared, so we had to replace it with its value negative 1. Now we do need to simplify. 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. So it tells us that we have negative 24I minus 4. Now we're not going to leave it in this form, because when we write these complex numbers, we always want them written in standard form. Standard form is A plus BI. So all that means is we're going to put the negative 4 first and put our negative 24I second, A plus BI. Where our value of A is negative 4, the value of B is negative 24 in the form A plus BI. Questions on the first one? Questions on A before we look at A? Let's look at the next one. 15I times negative 1 plus 2I. 15I times negative 1 is going to be negative 15I. 15I times 2I is going to be positive 30I squared. But again, just like before, we can't leave it as I squared, as 30I squared, because I squared is negative 1. So we can replace I squared with negative 1. Now we're just multiplying positive 30 and negative 1, which will give us negative 30. And we know we're going to have to move it to the front. So we might as well multiply it by the negative, making it negative 30. We move it in front. We move our I term to the back. Questions on this here? Are you ready for the last two? Nine minus 2I times negative 4 plus 7I. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute the 9. 9 times negative 4 is going to be negative 36. 9 times 7I, 9 times 7 is going to be plus 63I. Now we're going to do the same thing with negative 2I. Negative 2I times negative 4, negative 2 times negative 4 is going to be positive 8I. And negative 2I times 7I, negative 2 times 7 is going to be negative 14I squared. Now we just need to simplify. So as we look from left to right, well, negative 36, we don't have any other real numbers at the moment. However, our middle terms, 36I plus 8I, is going to be plus 71I. Minus 14I squared. Well, we can't leave it as I squared. We have to change it from I squared to negative 1. Now we have real-like terms because the I squared became negative 1. It doesn't have I anymore. So this is part of our real part of the complex number. So we have negative 36. Negative 14 times negative 1 is just positive 14. Now I'm going to move it up next to the negative 36 because we are going to have to combine those two terms. Negative 36 plus 14 is negative 22. And we get negative 22 plus 71I. And that's it. Questions on how we multiply these together? We feel comfortable with this here. We got one last one. You ready? So what would we do first? We would distribute the 4 first. So 4 times 11 is 44. Then we do 4 times 8i. 4 times 8 is going to be plus 32i. Then we do the same thing with negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 11, 132i. And negative 12 times 8i, negative I squared. 32i minus 132i. That's going to be negative 100i. Negative 96, well, I squared is negative 1. Now, our negative 96 times negative 1 is going to be positive 96, which will tell us that we get 140 minus 100i. Questions on this here? And that's it. Now, I show you how to do it by hand because I want you to know how to do it first. That way, when we see the shortcut, we see the easy way to do it. We know how it works, why it works, and how to do it. Because in most fields and most studies now, computers will be able to do most everything that we need them to do or need to do to get our job done. But if we don't know for sure if what they're telling us is right or accurate, that's not as good.